Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, I don't hear any clicking, so sounds like it's good. Sorry. Okay, so sorry, we got band practice in the background as usual. There they are. So, welcome to Dropping In a Pipeline Audio number 36, and say not just a river. So let's get to this. First of all, I could use some GUI help on our new plugins. If you know somebody that's good at that stuff, they don't really need to do all the moving parts and stuff. Just give us an idea. I'm not good at even an idea flow here, so. Look at these crazy people. So yeah, GUI. You know somebody who's good at GUIs, let me know. Let me turn this mic a little bit, sorry. Is that gonna work? I think that's better-ish. Okay. So on the plugin news, if you guys remember way back in the day, there was a plugin called Broadcast VST, and it kind of was like a Orban Optimod or whatever, it had handled your automatic level control, made you sound like you're on the radio, basically, back in the 90s and 80s radio. And it was, honestly, it's pretty sketchy. It would come on and go off, 32-bit, and it would crash on you a lot, but man, when it worked, it just worked great. It was awesome for podcast cleanup and stuff like that. And since then, we've been using, for 64-bit, we've been using Tri-Leveler from Sonic Anomaly, and that's what I'm using right now, actually. But Tone Boosters is made by the guy who made Broadcast way back in the day. And, I use their EQ4. I still have a little trouble with the latency thing. I think it might be fixed now. It says 0 of 5 of whatever samples before you hit play, but once you hit play, it says 0 of 0, and that's how it should be, like all the other zero latency plugins. But anyway, so if you look in the newest Tone Boosters update, a newer version of Broadcast is included, and it's 64-bit now. He says it's the same code; it's just been updated to work with the newer stuff. It seems to work okay. It seems to crash just as much as it used to, but it does work in 64-bit hosts. I tried to use it in OBS, and that would have been a lifesaver, but it actually works, but when you close OBS, it crashes, so you can't actually save it on there. I let him know about that, so hopefully that's going to be taken care of. But like I say, for now, I am using Tri-Leveler, which is also really good. I can't get it to work as well as Broadcast would, as much as I'd like, but it does work. So that's that. Hold on real quick. Yep. Yes. Yep. 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 Yep.
Are you online?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Broadcast is working, but it's not, it's like I said, it's crashing OBS. It's not good. Let's see. What else we got? Okay, sorry. Let me catch up. Okay, so the next thing, I don't know why, but lately everybody's talking about aliasing again. And it is an artifact of digital audio. If you don't know what aliasing is, it's oh boy. When you're in digital audio, you oh man, I'm gonna get killed for this, but basically you take pictures of the sound. You need 2 pictures of the sound in order to reconstruct it accurately. And so we have something called a sample rate. And so that just, let's say we're taking 10,000 pictures per second, let's say. Since you need 2 pictures to make a useful recording, a useful sample, that means that the highest possible frequency you can you can record is half of that sampling rate. So if you had 10,000 hertz as your sampling rate, 10,000 cycles per second, then the highest frequency you could record is 5,000 cycles per second, or 5,000 hertz. You actually need a little bit more room than that. So really, maybe you'd be safe at 4,000 hertz, and you could use 1,000 hertz for your low pass filter. So you can't, there is no perfect infinitely steep filter. Filters need a slope. Hopefully you know what a low pass filter is. If not, let me know, and we'll talk about that some other day. But so anyway, aliasing happens if you try and record above your that half of the sampling rate. That half of the sampling rate we call the Nyquist frequency. So just keep that. If you ever hear that term Nyquist frequency, that just means half of the sampling rate. So you can't correctly record anything that goes above half of that Nyquist frequency. And actually, like we just said, a little bit below that because of the need for the low pass filter for it. And that low pass filter is actually called the anti-aliasing filter. So if you go above, like let's say again our 5,000 hertz or 10 kilohertz sampling example, if you went to 6,000 hertz, you wouldn't be able to get two pictures of the sound. And in fact, what it thought you were trying to record gets folded back or aliased. A ghost copy sort of gets stuck back into the audible range. So below 5,000 hertz, it'll pick up a bunch of weird noises. You can hear aliasing. You can just Google aliasing noise, and you'll be able to find it. It can lead to some really bizarre effects and stuff. And I actually made a video way back in the day called aliasing and DAW amp sims and compressors on the Pipeline Audio YouTube channel. Go have a look at that. So any nonlinear process has a chance of making aliasing problems. And you know, there is, to some degree, you can hear these things. This isn't one of those nonsense religious things that you see in audio all the time. Aliasing can be a big problem. The extent to which you can hear it is a different story. But you can definitely make pathological files. So if you go to that video, I show what happens when you get up there. Not too far either. Once you start really creating harmonics. So and that's the problem. So like compressors, distortion, things like that, they create harmonics, octaves above. So you can quickly get into trouble, especially with distortion, because you're also kind of compressing at the same time. Take any guitar amp simulator and go run a sweep on it, and most of them you're going to hear aliasing effects. Some of them you won't, bizarrely enough, but most of them you will. I probably should have had some audio files queued up to play this for you. You could have really heard what this does. But it's a bizarre sound. I wonder, can I pop Reaper open? Let me see if I actually can do this. Maybe we can do this. Yeah, this is the wrong one to pop up. Let me make sure I'm still okay. Yep, sounds right. So I'm gonna put up a distortion plugin. I'm gonna put a test tone. I'm gonna sweep a test tone up in here. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make a sweep, logarithmic sweep, and I'm gonna go up to. I'm gonna start at 300 hertz. And I'm gonna go up to 16 kilohertz. Let's hear if it actually does it. Let's see. So sorry, this is taking a second. Okay, so that's our sweep. You hear that? Okay. So now I'm going to put it through a distortion box. Okay, so listen to this. Yeah, so you hear it, all that bizarreness. That is aliasing, okay? So it's a bad thing, you know, and it's very hard to avoid depending on what you're doing. And once it's on there for real, once it's back in the signal, the damage is done. So one of the things I tested out is, you know, just how audible is it? Because you'll see people just freaking out. Oh my God, this compressor, it's totally aliasing and we're all going to die. And for the most part, I can't hear it. And for another thing, lots of times you'll see people oversample. You know, a lot of these nonlinear processes do have they oversample. So like they'll if you're coming in at 44K, they'll double it to 88K, whatever. They'll do their processing at a much higher frequency and then put a filter on it and then bring it back in. But one thing that I've noticed is just going up an octave or whatever, it's not really oversampling. Like, you know, on that video actually I showed how you keep oversampling to really high degrees and it doesn't really keep it from happening. It moves it up a tiny bit, but it's still there. So I'm not super convinced on the audibility of oversampling, of aliasing or oversampling for the most part. On certain things, but you definitely hear it on others. But on the others where you really do hear it, I don't really see the oversampling helping much. Somebody can correct me on that. I've asked several times for an example of a compressor making in a non-totally pathological file, but in regular use, making audible aliasing trouble, and I haven't been able to ever get somebody to send me a file that shows that. So I'm not sure. And so I guess that's something I wanted to talk about is just science denial in general in audio. I mean, it's, you know, I like making fun of the audio files and you know, we make fun of that stuff a lot, but you know, it's constant. You know, a lot of people, including me, remember it. So for those of you who don't know, part of the reason that I'm always out there trying to do audio myth busting nowadays is that I used to be a true believer, and I used to tell people they had to buy these mic preamps and they had to use this magical cable and magical, you know, stuff in their rooms, and just total nonsense, not backed up by the science at all. And you know, one of the reasons I was like that is our academia. I mean, if you go to the Ivy League, they are pushing this stuff nonstop. I mean, I'm knocking for real. The Ivy League colleges out here, they are pushing this anti-science garbage about audio. And so also it seems that we end up with this stuff in the Audio Engineering Society. Definitely see it in all the trade publications, Mix Magazine, EQ, and they live by pushing this nonsense. And you know, the worst part is that when you become heavily invested in this stuff, you know, I had oscilloscopes and distortion analyzers and everything in my room. I could test all this gear right next to each other, and I saw that you know, there really wasn't any baby in that bathwater. The emperor didn't have any new clothes, but because you were so indoctrinated in it, you just believed it anyway. Oh, it's just something we can't measure, you know. And that's one of the things you'll always see, the God of the gaps, right? As soon as you discover something that where they said God was hiding before, and you find out that there's no God there, you know, and then they say, oh, no, he's more mysterious than that, you know. So you'll always run into that God of the gaps. It's moving the goalposts, basically. It's when you measure for something, they'll just say it's unmeasurable. And when you're dealing with audio files or whatever, when you're dealing with the Gear Page or Gear Sluts or most of these forums out there, they really believe in this stuff. And I still, you know, even me, to a degree, I'll go and put up some expensive mic preamp, even though I know it actually, since a lot of you know, I have actually tested these things and I've done several shows on it, that, you know, a lot of these things sound the same, or sometimes the cheapest one's the best one, if you're actually measuring flatness, distortion, and noise. So that's, you know, there's a constant moving the goalposts, a constant out of the gaps with a lot of these effects, with distortion, with noise, and with frequency response. But you'll always hear, oh no, this is better. We have to come do a listening test. And you know what? Listening tests aren't always the best. We are experts at fooling ourselves. And it's always important to remember that we're the survivors of, a bunch of animals that when they heard rustling in the leaves, some of them said, hey, it's nothing. And then they got eaten. And then others said, hey, it's a tiger. I better run. And even if there really wasn't a tiger there, they still lived. So, that's who we're descended from. So we have placebo effects. We imagine things. We have pareidolia. We see faces when they're not there. I'm sure you've all heard of, playing records backwards and hearing stuff that isn't there. That's it's kind of an audio form of pareidolia. You're constantly going to be on guard, especially your wallet, and that's another one. Is people, even if they know better, they want to justify what they spent their money on, the sunk cost fallacy, right? Actually, it's slightly different than that sunk cost fallacy, but you got to justify your purchase. Oh, that cable doesn't do anything magical? Well, I bought it, so I still got to say that it does something good because I paid for it. I need to believe in that. The marketing machine is constantly after you. And, not even shills, but just regular true believers in all the forums will nail you when you don't believe. A constant one is Gibson and Fender, right? Like they make some magical thing that can't be made by somebody else. It's just a guitar. There are tons of superior guitars out there to Gibsons and Fenders for cheaper, for any cost. So some things like, I can't just go to the Fender catalog and grab a 24 fret 7 string with the Floyd Rose. Necessarily, they might have one for all I know, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about these old single coil things with 22 frets or whatever and bolt-on necks. So stop it with the nonsense. But if you talk about it and you don't believe the magic, then somehow you're an idiot. We just had a one of those hype. Yeah, we just talked about this last time, but this marketing nonsense is nonsense, and it's not just the companies that are doing it. It's the people. It's the people who believe it. So you're constantly going to take it from the forums. Like they'll fight the manufacturers and the marketing people's battles for them. It's just be on guard. Just keep an eye on, type in like 25 logical fallacies or something, and just keep an eye on how fallacious people are being. I'm not really coherent enough to talk about that subject. I love talking about this subject, but I'm kind of wiped out on this. But just one more thing. This is gonna be a short one. Sorry. It's a musical problem sometimes people have called one note bass. Have you ever dealt with this kind of thing? There's a problem. It's really constant in bass guitars. So get down on your like low E string and just start playing up the neck and just watch a meter. Pick as evenly as you possibly can and just watch the meter. And some of those notes are just going to bounce up like crazy. And they're going to be way louder than the others. And a related problem, when you find that loud note, play the note right below it and the note right above it. And you're going to see that, not that any of these notes are all that discrete, because of course they make harmonics and stuff. But you're going to see a lot of what's in the note below it in that note that's making the loudest noise, and the note above it. You're going to see those frequencies very represented. And in fact, when you play the note below it, you're still probably going to see a lot of that note right above it. And same thing if you play the note above that treble note, you're probably going to see a lot of the treble note in it itself. And so that's a hard thing to deal with. Back in the day, the mastering engineers used to you had the old elliptical players to keep the record players working, the elliptical cutter, compressor. That was really basically it just, I think it monoed out everything below a certain frequency or something. You can dip that frequency out. You can turn it down. And that's a lot of what people used to do in the in the recording stage, in the mix stage, they go, man, that bass is making trouble. And so you go and bring up a calculator or whatever and tune your EQ to that note and turn it down. But that works, right? But especially on the mastering end of things, if you do that, whatever else happened to be in that frequency, that's getting knocked out too. That's not any good, right? And for your bass guitar, you don't want to turn down your whole mix just because of that bass, and you don't really want to turn down that note because, like I said, the notes that are adjacent to it also have a lot of those frequencies, and so when you go to turn it down like that, you're losing out a lot. And wouldn't it be nice if somebody made something to deal with that? And with that, my server's down, so I don't know when this is going up. And that's kind of why this is short, because I was chasing that down. But I'll see you guys next week.